ever. It's never happening.
Why?
Because
yeah, we'll see. Never say never, Sean. I think you'd win. We'd rig it
great.
for you.
Who am I going to lose to? I mean, it wouldn't be fun. Great show. Tucker, thank you. All right, welcome to Hannity. All right, this is, as I've been saying, the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in modern U.S. history. Throughout the hour tonight, we're going to break it all down, A to Z. Information I promise you're not going to get anywhere else. It's not as complicated as they are making it elsewhere. In other words, the Mueller witch hunt should put real fear in the hearts of every law-abiding citizen, every American. Doesn't matter where your politics are. There's no equal justice under the law. There's no equal application under the law. And the blatant political bias around every turn. We are criminalizing political differences in America. A dangerous precedent is being set now. And Mueller, he's not only on a mission, he's not on a mission for truth and justice. He's on a crusade to destroy, delegitimize, disrupt the Donald Trump presidency. And also coming up tonight, I'm going to weigh in on the latest developments as they relate to Michael Cohen, Jerome Corsi, Roger Stone. We'll break down in detail the disgusting two-tier justice system in this country tonight. And also, after widespread public pressure, fake news, CNN had to fire one of their contributors over an awful, bigoted, anti-Semitic rant. We're going to show you how CNN's far-left, Trump-obsessed rage now has fostered what is a corrosive, abusively biased environment at the Facts First network. It's worse than it's ever been. All right, we're going to get through it. It's going to take the full hour. Stay with us. Time, we start with our breaking news opening monologue. All right, so the Mueller fishing expedition is now on day 561 and now desperate for dirt, any dirt on Donald Trump. They are frenetic. They're going to the well. 70 hours Michael Cohen apparently spent with the special prosecutor. One-time Trump attorney pled guilty to a charge of lying to Congress over something called the Moscow Project. Now, Cohen is now claiming that the Trump organization continued to negotiate the financed by Russia name lease of Trump deal of a potential building in Russia during the 2016 election. He first said discussions had ended in January of 2016. Now he's saying they ended in June of 2016. The destroyed Trump media, of course, used these anonymous sources. They're saying that Cohen, get this, allegedly told investigators he was negotiating a deal in Moscow to maybe gift Vladimir Putin a $50 million penthouse in the proposed building project that Donald Trump wasn't paying for so that rich Russian oligarchs would want to live there. And just moments ago, John Roberts reported a source close to the president calling it, quote, nuts. It would be a stupid idea, and the president never heard of any such deal. And by the way, this deal, guess what? It never, ever, ever happened. The project never got off the ground. No Trump Organization investments were ever made, and today the Trump Organization has no buildings in Russia. You wouldn't know it if you were watching the mainstream media. There's, by the way, even if it had happened, this is the most fascinating part, there's no crime here. None whatsoever. Donald Trump was a real estate mogul in New York. That's what he did his whole adult life and how he made a living. And he invested in many other countries. By the way, doesn't every politician that gets paid with our money, don't they get paid when they're out campaigning for the next election by us? And in 2017, this potential project was widely reported everywhere by just about every outlet. Fake news, CNN, ABC News, so did The Hill, almost every other news network. In other words, we knew this. This is not a news story. In any way is it a news story. It's been reported on extensively. However, that doesn't matter to the left, and it certainly didn't matter to Robert Mueller. He's more interested in making the mainstream media bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer and water, and he's just desperate. All he wants to do every day is mention Russia in some way, indicting all these former KGB guys, all their intelligence people that he's never bringing to the United States ever under any circumstances, just so he can mention Russia, fomenting breathless reporting to give credibility to his never-ending witch hunt. And by the way, Robert Mueller is playing your media with their bias and their hate of Trump just like a fiddle. Watch this.
it's Shakespearean because somebody who said he would take a bullet for Donald Trump is now pointing the gun at him.
Michael Cohen could be the single most terrifying person for Donald Trump, the single most destructive person for Donald Trump going forward.
Today is a good day for Donald Trump to resign. I really believe that.
The president's reaction to the news about Michael Cohen today was exactly what we, as prosecutors, always hear from mob bosses and drug kingpins. That is, that the cooperator is lying. He's just saying these things about me that aren't true to get a lighter sentence. And so this is kind of playing out exactly like a significant, complicated, organized crime prosecution would play out.
Everything is aiming right at the president personally, and that's got to be very unsettling for them.
So the truth is, putting aside all the conspiratorial reporting from people that say they're fair, balanced, objective, and they're not, your mainstream media, even if Michael Cohen's timeline revelation was accurate, let's say it is, that it wasn't January, it was June. No crime was committed, ever. It wouldn't be a crime. Legal scholar Alan Dershowitz, who's going to join us in just a minute, summed it up perfectly. Take a look.
Almost all the indictments secured by Mueller have either been indictments of people lying, that is, for committing crimes that didn't occur before he was appointed, but occurred as the result of his being appointed, or finding financial misconduct by people that are unrelated to the president or unrelated to the Russia probes. This new development with Cohen suggests that they're going to go after political issues, not just criminal issues.
Alan Dershowitz is dead on accurate. And by the way, just telling the truth. And whatever happened, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I kind of believed in attorney-client privilege. If Cohen was, in fact, working for the Trump organization as a lawyer, how can Mueller and Cohen just break what is a pretty ethical mandate, especially when there's no crime? Now, of course, despite all of this, there's no evidence of Trump-Russian collusion. Nothing. Zero. And today, President Trump, he weighed in on the Cohen guilty verdict with some pretty harsh words. Take a look.
He's lying about a project that everybody knew about. I mean, we were very open with it. We were thinking about building a building. I decided ultimately not to do it. There would have been nothing wrong if I did do it. If I did do it, there would have been nothing wrong. He's a weak person and not a very smart person. He's got himself a big prison sentence, and he's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. Now, here's the thing. Even if he was right, it doesn't matter, because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign.
And by the way, we're going to get to this issue. I call it the Sammy the Bull Gravano, syndrome, if you will. How prosecutors offer deals. Tell us this, and you get a get-out-of-jail-free card or lower sentence, lesser sentence. Now, the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, he also weighed in. He said, quote, Michael Cohen is lying. It's no surprise that Cohen lied to Congress. He's a proven liar who is doing everything he can to get out of a long-term prison sentence for serious crimes of bank and tax fraud that had nothing to do with the Trump organization. Look, I know Michael Cohen. He has a wonderful family. I can't imagine the pressure he's under. I'm not going to pile on. He's got a lot of hard things that he's facing. But this is important. If this is Mueller's big witness, it is fair to ask, who are we to believe? The Michael Cohen then or the Michael Cohen now? That's a fair question. This is just the latest example of what is Mueller's concerted effort to turn the screws on everyone who's ever associated with President Trump. Let's look at the list. Michael Flynn, no Russia collusion. He pled guilty to lying to investigators. They ruined his life. He had to sell his house, and they probably threatened his kid, is my guess. George Papadopoulos, he's spending 2 weeks in jail. Nothing about Russia, lying to investigators. He now will have a felony on his track record forever. Paul Manafort had the book thrown over him. Oh, let's see, financial crimes dating back to 2007, bank loan applications, taxes, nothing Russian, nothing. What's amazing is he had a cooperation deal that ended likely because, well, he wouldn't lie like Jerome Corsi wouldn't lie. Meaning think about this, Paul Manafort tonight is willing to risk dying in prison than lie as the prosecutors would want. Jerome Corsi on the show last night, on my radio show for a full hour this afternoon, rejecting another lying investigator's plea deal. He might die in prison. 72 years old. He could have gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card and now is under Mueller's microscope, potentially facing life in prison, dying in prison, like Paul Manafort. And as he said last night on my radio show today, He's willing to do that because he can't lie before his God. That's what he said. His faith won't let him. Roger Stone is also literally feeling the special counsel's wrath. Now, none of the men I just mentioned to you had pled guilty to or admitted to anything related to Russia collusion. There's no evidence of any Russia collusion. None of them are being tried for any crimes related to collusion. 561 days of what? Now, here's the problem, and this is where we get to the crux of the matter. We have to analyze this deeply. What's happening is instead of seeking truth and justice, instead of applying our laws, in other words, equally applying our laws to everybody, equal justice under the law, what you're watching is a special counsel that has spun out of control, left way beyond his mandate, laying just perjury traps and literally trying to coerce people into what we call testa lying. In other words, Mueller's telling people, if you just say what we want. I mean, Corsi gave me full detail on my radio show today. Look, they were saying, just tell us, and listen, you probably won't even get probation. You know, if not, you're going to die in jail. That's the choice. And to think he's saying, I'm not going to lie. I won't lie. I believe in God, Jesus. I'm not going to do it. It's similar prosecutorial treatment that, remember, Sammy the Bull Gravano. You may not remember the case, I'll remind you. Killed at least, get this, that guy right there killed at least 19 people, got off no jail time. Then he just had to literally testify against John Gotti. And then after that, he was rewarded. Not only did he not go to jail, he was in the witness protection program, and he got a nice new house in Arizona. Isn't that nice? 19 people, no time in jail. Meanwhile, if you're not a notorious gangster or a Trump ally, the wheels of justice are turning much differently. Mueller's team collects lying to investigator guilty pleas like they're going out of style. They can't get the underlying crime or these people to say things that they don't believe to be true. Top Democrats, deep state bureaucrats, they lie, they get away scot-free. I've got the list. Look at the longtime Clinton aide, Cheryl Mills, Uma Abedin, blatantly lied when they told investigators that they had no knowledge of Hillary's private email. Really? Because they actually emailed there. Our friend and reporter here at the Fox News Channel, in special report, Catherine Herridge reporting either DOJ official Bruce Orr or Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson likely lied due to their contradictory testimony. Dirty Dossier author Christopher Steele, not only did he lied and leaked and was fired by the FBI. And then guess what? He was working still with Bruce Orr, fourth most powerful guy at the Justice Department. And now we have notes that show that he was trying to feed Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie worked for Fusion GPS, information he was trying to feed Robert Mueller. And meanwhile, remember, Steele doesn't even stand by his own dossier when challenged in an interrogatory in Great Britain. James Clapper, let's go to the videotape. He lied under oath about national surveillance programs. So too did John Brennan. He also lied under oath about leaking. James Comey lied under oath when he said the report about the Clinton investigation had not been written before she was interviewed. Lie. Comey's second in command, Andrew McCabe. He was actually fired because of his pattern of lying. Where are the federal cases against these liars, against these people lying to Congress? Instead, what? We're pushing for charges. Fired FBI Director Comey actually defended the DOJ's pattern of lying on The View, literally saying, I lied, McCabe lied, but you can still be a good person if you lie. Well, unless you're a Republican, then they're going to put you in jail.
Your second in command, McCabe, was fired for lying multiple times within the FBI. You defended his character on Twitter. That's okay. Lying is okay internally.
No, it's definitely not. In fact, the McCabe case illustrates what an organization that's committed to the truth looks like. We investigate and hold. I ordered that investigation. We investigate and hold people accountable. Good people lie. I lay out in the book, I think I'm a good person where I've lied. I still believe Andrew McCabe is a good person, but the Inspector General found that he lied, and there's severe consequences in the Justice Department for lying, as there should be throughout the government.
The good people, they lie. The only problem is if you're not giving Mueller what he wants, then you're going to be charged with perjury. It's what I've been telling you. You want real Russia collusion? We've got it with all the evidence that Mueller doesn't have about Trump. We got the fixed email investigation, violation of the Espionage Act, the biggest obstruction of justice case I've ever seen. The dirty dossier bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Why? To lie to voters and convince voters of Russian hookers urinating in Trump's bed in Moscow so that they won't vote for him. I wonder how many Americans didn't vote for Trump because of that leaked lie, that paid for lie. The FISA fraud abuse, lying to FISA judges, literally a FISA fraud extravaganza. And, of course, omissions that didn't even tell the judges that Hillary paid for it. Then we got insurance policies, leaking policies. Is Robert Mueller even going to ever look in that direction? I thought we were looking for the truth, for real Russia collusion. We've got evidence on all of this, and it's a slam dunk case. Why is he not? Because there's one set of rules in this country now for one group of Americans, the swamp creatures, or if you're a liberal Democrat or your name's Clinton. Another set of rules for everyone else. Try this at home. You're subpoenaed. You delete the email subpoenaed. You acid wash your hard drive. You have your devices busted and you have SIM cards taken out. Good luck to you. It's not going to work. In other words, we don't have equal application of the law, equal justice under the law. This is a two-tiered justice system. You, as an American, every American tonight, it should scare the hell out of you if the President of the United States and those who surround him are subject to what is now clearly a double standard political persecution. Nobody in this country is safe. Nobody. This is the United States of America. We're not a banana republic. At least we're not supposed to be. This is not how our constitutional republic and system of justice is supposed to work. We can do better. We better do better. We better demand better. We'll have more on this throughout the show. But first, we do turn to a network whose motto is, well, about as fake as their coverage. The so-called Facts First Network, CNN, forced to fire longtime contributor today, Mark Lamont Hill, but only after widespread outcry over his anti-Semitic rant during a speech at the UN. Take a look at this.
If we are standing in solidarity with Palestinian people, we must recognize the right of an occupied people to defend itself. We must prioritize peace. But we must not romanticize or fetishize it. Commit to political action, grassroots action, local action, and international action that will give us what justice requires. And that is a free Palestine from the river to the sea.
In case you don't know, from the river to the sea, Israel is located between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. Mark Lamont Hill was literally repeating a call from terrorists and Palestinian extremists. In other words, you wipe Israel off the map. Now, while Hill was ultimately fired, literally disgusting far-left rhetoric from CNN anchors, contributors is nothing new. Their hatred for the president, everything that he represents, the fact that he won, has driven this network into a very dark, frankly scary place. Day after day, minute after minute, second by second, the coverage is more and more absurd, biased, and frankly hateful. We're going to show you a montage tonight you'll want to show your friends. But first, joining us now, reaction to our top story, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter and the author of The Deep State, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Jason, you were there when a lot of those people that I put on my list lied. I don't see any of them. I don't see any consequences for any of them. So am I to interpret this right, that the only people that get hit with lying to Congress issues are if you're related to Trump? That's or General Flynn, Michael Cohen. Pick your person or poison.
Yeah, no, look, I was the chairman of the Oversight Committee, and it was crystal clear in the Hillary Clinton investigation, the 5 people closest to Hillary Clinton, they all got immunity agreements, and immunity agreements that required no cooperation with the government.
Explain what that means and explain the computer aspect. They were able to keep the evidence.
Yes. And so you have Cheryl Mills, you have Heather Samuelson, you have Brian Pagliano, you have these people closest to Hillary Clinton. She's under investigation because of what happened in the Inspector General. They're given immunity agreements, not complete immunity, but immunity from any prosecution from the Department of Justice. But they didn't have to cooperate with the government. They didn't have to answer questions from Congress. They didn't have to provide information to the Department of Justice. That's why you give an immunity agreement, is to get this. And then on the Trump case, I mean, everybody from Eric Holder to Hillary Rodham Clinton to the IRS targeting scandal to Fast and Furious, all of these cases, we had referrals from the Congress to the Department of Justice to prosecute them. And nothing, just crickets. Never had a response from them.
By the way, Sarah Carter, we put on my website a link. Sarah and my radio producer, Linda McLaughlin, produced a nonprofit, totally informational, great, literally, it's a public service about the opioid crisis in the country. We put it up on Hannity.com. So let's just stay focused on what's really going on here. Because to see people that will risk their life and say, you know what, my faith in God, my belief in our country tells me I can't go along with your lies. Jerome Corsi spelling out in detail. They're saying, say this, and you won't even get probation. We'll leave you alone. Really?
Well, they want him. They want him to compose, right? This is what Mueller needs.
Compose.
Exactly. He needs people to compose this narrative in order for him to mean something. I mean, look, he's building a legacy, right? He's the special counsel. That's why he keeps pushing towards Russia, even though nothing connects to Russia. What Michael Cohen did, yes, he lied to Congress. It's wrong. But we saw, Sean, even in the clips that you showed, James Clapper lied in 2013. He flat out lied to Senator Wyden, who was a Democrat, who asked him specifically if the United States government was collecting information on Americans. And he said, no, sir, we are not wittingly. And he knew he was lying. He ran out his statute of limitations on that. It was 5 years, and he walks away from it. And this wasn't the only time. And the FBI uses a dossier full of lies to go after, to
Hillary
spy first on an American.
Exactly. Russian lies used to propagandize the American people to get votes using the Russian lies that you bought and paid for. How is it possible that Mueller ignores all of this and the media ignores all of this?
I don't know how it's possible, but the American people are not dumb, Sean. The American people are seeing right through this. Believe me, they are. They are realizing that there are two sets of rules. And this is why it's important for Congress, even now, even people are saying, oh, it's a lame duck Congress. Nothing can be done now. But it's very important that we continue to push for investigations, and it's important to get to the truth.
Last word, we'll give it to you, Congressman Chaffetz. How do we get equal justice under the law back?
Well, first thing we need to do is that Congress needs to be able to get James Comey back up in that transcribed interview and let Gowdy and Radcliffe and these Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, let them go after him. They've got to do that before the clock runs out in January.
Well, remember, we also have Lindsey Graham in the Senate. And, Donald Trump campaign helped Marsha Blackburn, helped Rick Scott, helped Ron DeSantis, helped Josh Hawley. Joe Donnelly was beaten by Mr. Braun. I think he did a pretty good job. That'll be helpful for himself. All right, thank you both. All right, when we come back, we'll expose perhaps Mueller's most outrageous tactics yet. Alan Dershowitz, Greg Jarrett, they'll break it all down. We have a lot of ground to cover, the latest on the caravan and much more. Straight ahead.
When my hot water heater failed.
All right, now joining us for legal analysis of all this, Greg Jarrett, new op-ed out of FoxNews.com entitled Cohen Guilty Plea Does Absolutely Nothing to Show Wrongdoing by Trump. He joins us. And, of course, his book, #1 bestseller, The Russia Hoax. Also with us, the author of another bestseller, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, Harvard Law Professor Alan Dershowitz. Professor, let me start with you. And okay, I call it the Sammy the Bull syndrome. 19 murders. You give up Gotti. You testify. No jail time. We'll put you in the witness protection program. You get a house. Mr. Corsi, you say you'd never met Julian Assange, ever had any contact with anybody from WikiLeaks. You give us a connection. You get a get out of jail free card. Why do I have a problem when something of value is given for testimony?
You should. And Judge Ellis, who presided over the first Manafort case, had that problem, too. He said that kind of thing inclines witnesses not only to sing but to compose. There was a case some years ago in one of the United States Court of Appeals that said when prosecutors offer incentives to witnesses, they're bribing them. Unfortunately, that case was later overruled, but the decision was absolutely correct. Prosecutors offer bribes. Bribes in terms of life.
Is that legal,
liberty,
Professor? Because I don't think I'd offer a bribe to them.
Unfortunately, if you offered a bribe, you go to jail. But if a prosecutor offers a bribe, it's regarded as good conduct. It shouldn't be legal. Tragically, it is. But what we're seeing now is case after case, being built against people simply for lying. These are not crimes that occurred before the special prosecutor came to office. He's supposed to have uncovered crimes that had occurred in the past. Instead, he's facilitating and incentivizing the crimes by creating these perjury traps. Virtually all of his indictments and pleas come from people who he got to lie in front of investigators by setting perjury traps for them. The other ones have to do with financial dealings unrelated to the president.
Isn't it amazing,
Where's the beef? Where's the crime?
Thank you. And let me go to Greg. It is amazing that both Corsi and Roger Stone, and I asked them straight up multiple times, did you ever have any contacts with Julian Assange? No. WikiLeaks? No. Any sources close? No. Actually, their email messages bear that out, that they didn't. And here's where they're trying, it seems, to get Donald Trump. The Moscow deal, I don't see, that's what Donald Trump did for a living.
It's perfectly
I don't see anything
legal.
illegal there, number one. And the other is, well, they're trying to connect him to WikiLeaks through Corsi and Roger Stone.
Right.
And they're saying they never talked to the guy.
This demonstrates that it's quite likely that Robert Mueller and his team of partisans have no evidence, not a whiff of collusion involving Trump and the Russians. Trump Tower meeting, perfectly legal. The hacking, that's absurd. Trump wasn't involved in that. A construction project that was abandoned in Russia, that has nothing to do with Trump-Russian collusion. If there was evidence of collusion, then Michael Cohen would have been charged. Instead, Cohen and 4 others have been charged with these process crimes, which, as the professor points out, are actually a creation of the special counsel's presence and have nothing to do with Trump or Trump-Russian collusion. So I suspect...
But here's the problem with the president. Yeah. Here's the problem for the president. Mueller will write a report. The report will be based on the testimony of people who have lied and who have not been cross-examined. When the report comes out, it will be extremely critical. I've used the term devastating, just like the Starr report was devastating and the Iran-Contra report was devastating. But it's devastating only if it's unrebutted, which is why it is absolutely essential for the president's team to demand that the Justice Department not allow the release of the Mueller report until they've had a chance to review it and rebut it. And then both reports, the Mueller report and the president's lawyer's report, come out at the same time so the American public can judge.
Let me ask you this, Professor. This is important. You even said today firing Mueller wouldn't be an impeachable offense. The president said he's not going to do that. And you also talked about this being political now with Mueller. I want to ask you through this prism. Isn't it true, based on the Pentagon Papers, the Supreme Court decision, 6-3, that the New York Times, Washington Post, they can publish stolen material as long as they didn't steal it?
Right. Of course.
Now, I interviewed Julian Assange. He said he didn't get it from Russia, no state party, et cetera. Maybe it was a cutout. Maybe it could have been, you know, we know Hillary's computers in the bathroom closet were hacked by at least 6 foreign intelligence services, if not more. So my question to you is, based on that, that would mean that these emails, be it WikiLeaks or the New York Times that published the WikiLeaks, which is ironic, if they didn't hack and it was given to them from sources, doesn't that mean that what they printed is legal?
Absolutely. The president has the same authority, and the president's campaign has the same authority as the New York Times and the Washington Post. They're allowed to print material that they know was stolen, as long as they didn't tell the people to steal it or give them directions how to hack. Nobody alleges that of the president's campaign. And therefore, they have completely the right to do it. The problem is Mueller is straying away from his mandate to find crime, and he's now looking for political sin, building buildings in Moscow, using stolen material from Assange. These are not crimes. He has no authority to be a roving commissioner to find political sins. So far, I don't see any evidence of crimes except for ones he helped to facilitate by getting people to lie in front of his own investigators.
And Greg, this is what Professor Dershowitz means when he says criminalizing political differences, because all those people that I pointed out lied to Congress, they're not in trouble today like Michael Cohen, are they?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a friend or a supporter of Donald Trump, you get prosecuted for little or nothing. And if you're a friend of Hillary or the Obama administration or a public official, nothing happens to you. The fact is that Mueller is presenting to these witnesses a narrative of Trump-Russia collusion. He's demanding under threat they support it. Some of them won't, and Mueller is trying to prosecute them as a consequence. That is unconscionable. It's wrong. It's corrupt.
Fascinating analysis by both of you. Thank you both. No wonder why you both have bestsellers. All right. As we move forward, more breaking news tonight. You won't believe what we're now learning about the caravan. Now 7,000 people in and around Tijuana. Here's a clue. Liberals aren't going to like what we're going to report. I have a mini monologue straight ahead. Also, Geraldo, Dan Bongino, straight ahead.
You might take some...
All right, we have major new updates on the caravan tonight. Everything we've been warning you is unfortunately being proven true. Everything the media, people like Barack Obama, everything they were telling you, completely false. That's the subject of tonight's mini monologue. Still camped out in Tijuana, Mexico, following clashes with U.S. Border Patrol officers Sunday. Just today, DHS released more information on what are extremely dangerous conditions for many people, the high number of women who are assaulted during this journey. Griff Jenkins reporting that some migrants are actually self-deporting as they face diminishing prospects of entering the U.S. legally. And he's also uncovering that despite what the mainstream media has been telling you, the vast majority in the caravan happen to be men. And health officials there are reporting that 1/3 of the people traveling in the caravan are being treated for various health issues, including lice, skin infections, 3 confirmed cases of tuberculosis, 4 confirmed cases of chickenpox, and more. And by the way, I think we should, on a humanitarian basis, help. But let me be clear. I've said many times, I want many people in the caravan. I know that they're searching for a better life, but storming the border, attacking Border Patrol, rocks, bottles, other projectiles, that's not seeking asylum. When do you so-called asylum seekers act like that? We're also learning tonight none of the migrants involved in the clashes will face any prosecution, despite the president's vow that lawlessness on the border will not be tolerated. Meanwhile, the threat of more violence is even prompting the Department of Justice now to send DEA agents and U.S. Marshal Service personnel to Southern California. And just last night, we learned that an admitted MS-13 gang member was recently arrested at the border crossing east of Tijuana. And he's been identified as a 29-year-old Honduran, telling authorities he was part of the caravan. Despite mounting evidence, the media is continuing to downplay the real threat, all while ignoring the failures of the Obama administration and what they did. Oh, they shot pepper spray and tear gas at people that tried to come into the country illegally. Nobody reported on it then. Joining us now, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino, Fox News contributor, our friend Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, you know, you got me so mad one night because I said to you, I told you this was coming. What do you want to do, Sean? You want to shoot? No, I don't. I have acknowledged to you how many times that I probably 99% want a better life, and I sympathize with that. I really do. My heart goes out. I want humanitarian health care. We can help them with TB and chicken. We need to do it. But the problem is laws, sovereignty, borders. That's what matters, and the identified criminals that have infiltrated the caravan.
Hello, Dan. I love you, my brother Sean. I stand shoulder to shoulder with both of you when it comes to exposing the Russia collusion illusion. But I think the harsh treatment of those migrants at the border with the pepper spray and all the rest of it, the militarization
Obama,
of the southern border, that doesn't make it right, Sean. That doesn't make it right. And
how do you stop people that are charging your borders? How would you do it?
Of the 42 arrested, 8 were women with children, Sean. Those scenes are etched in our national psyche now, like the separation of the children from their parents 2 months ago.
Where were all your liberal friends in the Obama years? He did
Sean, if indeed these sins were committed during the Obama administration, that doesn't make the sins being committed now right.
Okay.
We have a collective recollection.
But Dan Bongino, it's not just 42 people.
We can't treat these people like
there were hundreds of people.
One MS-13 member.
So what do we do
when
they
MS-13 member among 7,000 or 10,000?
Geraldo, Dan, what about our Border Patrol guys? Rocks, bottles, projectiles, tear gas isn't going to kill you. And I think parents have a responsibility to pull their kids away from that situation. That's their responsibility, too.
Yeah, you know, Geraldo, again, I appreciate your nice comments. I consider you a friend, too, but you are way, way off base on this. I've stood at roll calls. I was a law enforcement officer. I'm not looking for anybody's pat on the back. Your tax dollars paid for it. It was a great job. But I ask you the same question Sean asked you. You're given a lot of platitudes. Nobody wants to see anybody tear gas. You win. Point stipulated. We both are empathetic to that. But that was not the choice of the Border Patrol officials. The choice was made by people who stormed the border illegally. And I ask you a very simple question, and I would sincerely appreciate an honest answer. You're standing in the face of these Border Patrol agents, patrolling our border, just doing their jobs to keep our nation secure. What do you tell them to do when a rock comes at their face? What? What's your answer? Nobody produce an answer. They just produce platitudes. What do you do?
This is what you do. This is what you do not do, Dan. You do not shoot tear gas
I didn't ask
at
you
women
what you
with
don't
small
do.
children.
I asked
you do
you
not
what
do that.
you do.
And you and Sean are both the grandsons or the great-grandsons of immigrants. Italian immigrants, Irish immigrants. They were slandered just like you were slandering these people with these.
My wife Paula's an immigrant.
They have diseases. They're bringing disease. Read the newspapers from the middle of the 19th century. The Irish were bringing diseases. The Italians were bringing diseases.
The question.
This is a slander.
Why won't you answer the question, Geraldo?
These are innocent people seeking a better life. What you don't do is you don't put 6,000 GIs with fixed bayonets at the border.
What do you do when they're throwing rocks and bottles at our agents?
All right, here's what you do. You send Spanish-speaking ambassadors to the crowd. You explain to them that they are not going to be able to rush the border. You explain to them the facts of life. You explain to them the reality of what's happening.
There's hundreds of them charging at them.
This is a stain. This is a stain on the Trump presidency that it would be very difficult to eradicate.
Charging the border and charging at police. What if it's thousands? What do you do then? That's an important question you need to answer.
Are you going to believe those words? Are you going to believe
your
own lying eyes when you look at the video and you see the composition of this crowd? This is a benign, suffering civilian crowd.
Rocks.
You can
there we go. There's the rocks being thrown.
The three scenes of the rocks being thrown. What about the scenes of them living in squalor and in the athletic fields?
Do it legally,
Geraldo. They're begging for food and overflowing toilets and the most inhumane conditions.
Why not claim asylum?
Where is USA
in the face of a Border Patrol agent?
That rock ripple in the tidal wave.
You're suggesting
you do it with humanity, Dan. You do it with humanity and compassion. Humanity and compassion.
I got to leave. Let me just say this: if we had the wall, nobody would get hurt on either side, and we'd have a door.
Let's build it. Let's build it.
We can end an agreement. Build the wall. Up next, hypocrisy, fake news, CNN. They've lost it. It's bad. Joe Concha is going to break it all down. Straight ahead. All right, as I mentioned in our opening monologue tonight, CNN fired their contributor, Mark Lamont Hill, for his outrageous comments about Israel. But it's only the latest example of insanity at the so-called Facts First network. Here's some more of their hysterical, insane, crazy, biased coverage.
Is this president trying to impersonate Hugo Chavez? Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Vladimir Putin?
What a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
When do we see almost a shadow government come out and say, we cannot side with the government?
Why is President Trump showing sympathy for white nationalists and other hate groups?
What does that tell you in an America that in one generation called you? What does that tell you, Don?
We can surely say his words have absolutely emboldened white supremacists.
16 tweets today to start the new year, some of them deeply disturbing. These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
He's President Snowflake, okay? Everything he said, oh, they're mean to me and they don't like me and I just don't understand it and it's not fair.
This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part.
All right, now we bring in Joe Contra, media reporter for The Hill. And I guess my favorite in all of that is Van Jones or maybe Dr. Humpty Dumpty giving his diagnosis.
Yeah, I don't think we should ever really be giving, with somebody, as somebody who's married to a doctor, you probably don't want to play a doctor on TV when you're basically, doing a diagnosis from afar. Yeah, that's never a good look. Look, obviously, Mark Lamont Hill, Sean, had to be fired in this situation. You mentioned it before. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. That's right out of a Hamas script that calls for the annihilation of Israel. No question about it. I'm not big on firings and in these sort of situations, but this was unavoidable. But here's the thing. CNN has somewhere to around 40 to 50 contributors underneath their umbrella. So firing Mark Lamont Hill isn't that hard of a thing to do because you have 3-4 dozen other people you could just plug in there. The other bigger names that you showed during that montage, people that are on the air more, people that are anchors on that network or host shows, they're a lot harder to fire in these situations. I'm not calling for them to be fired because, look, if we were to fire every single person that called the president a racist or a fascist or questioned his mental health on national television, 90% of this industry would be working at Walmart for the holidays. Yeah.
I am arguing it's literally almost every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day. Stormy, stormy, stormy. Russia, Russia, Russia. S-hole, S-hole, S-hole. Michael Avenatti TV. It's
not anymore.
They say they're reporters. I'm a talk show host. I do some objective reporting, investigative reporting, do a lot of opinion. I'm the whole newspaper. But they say they're news. They're dishonest.
Well, then that's the thing, right? I mean, if we were to talk about, say, a Don Lemon, for example, he's called an anchor on the network. He's somebody who gives opinions. It gets confusing after a while. Same thing with Anderson Cooper or Chris Cuomo. They are anchors. Therefore, they should be on there asking questions and gathering information, or Jim Acosta at White House briefings, asking questions, gathering information. Instead, all of these people share their innermost feelings on certain topics, their emotions. They debate in certain situations, and that's not what the job is. And I think that's where mistrust comes to within people watching at home and watching the media. They don't know who the anchors are from the opinion people, from the pundits anymore. And then when they hear
any of these people
when they hear a side being given, then they don't know what to conclude from that because it sounds like you're trying to draw the viewer to a conclusion instead of letting them draw their own conclusions. And I think that's a big problem in our industry right now, no question.
Listen, I admit I'm a talk show host. We sometimes do straight news. We sometimes do opinion. Sometimes do investigative reporting. But we tell you we do it all. They say they do one thing. They don't. Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh have been phenomenal this week on radio. Here's part of Rush coming up next. All right, so amidst all the hysteria today over Michael Cohen's guilty plea, Rush Limbaugh had a very sobering perspective on the big picture. Take a look.
We have been lied to ourselves. We have been misled. We have been misdirected by a willing accomplice drive-by media working with Robert Mueller and his staff of anti-Trump lawyers and the entire Democrat Party combined with the Washington establishment to create in the minds of the American people a story that didn't happen, couldn't happen, nobody can ever prove did happen. Where is the tampering of votes? Where is the meetings? Where is the strategy? Where is the evidence that Trump got together with Russians to sabotage the Hillary campaign, which is what everybody has been led to believe happened here? Robert Mueller has nothing because there is nothing on what everybody in this country has been misled to believe for the past 2 years.
Bingo, right on the money. We'll always be fair and balanced, but not to destroy Trump media. I hope you'll check out my radio show. It's on Hannity.com, 3 to 6 every afternoon. And let not your heart be troubled. The news continues. Laura Ingraham. I didn't give my announcement tonight, and there's a reason, but it's all good. It's coming.